Have you ever found that someone who should be motivated in a situation isn't? If you have, if you've ever wondered what's going on, then one of the most valuable models for you is going to be Victor Vroom's expectancy theory. It arguably is one of the least understood and most valuable models for any manager in the field of motivation. And that's what we'll look at in this video. Victor Vroom's expectancy theory of motivation is probably less well known than it should be because he expressed it in mathematical terms. He wrote an equation for it, and people don't like equations, so I am not going to give you an equation till the very end of this video. By then you'll already understand the theory, and the equation will just complete the picture for you. To help you understand the theory, I'm going to consider a very simple example. I have a car. I want to clean it. But I'm not going to do it myself because I've got 4 children and any one of them could clean it for me. And each of them could do a good job. So I go to my older son. And I ask my older son if he will clean the car. I promise him a great reward if he does. But he says, no, I don't think I want to clean the car for you because every time I've cleaned the car for you in the past, you've always found fault with the work I've done. You've never been happy with it. It always just gets me frustrated. So ask someone else. What's going on? Why doesn't my son? What's going on? Why doesn't my son want to clean the car? Well, Victor Vroom would have described this in terms of expectancy. My son doesn't expect that if he puts in the work, he will get the outcome for which he would be rewarded. If expectancy is low, then so is motivation. So I go to my older daughter and I ask her if she wants to clean the car, promising her a great reward if she does. Well, Dad, she says, every time I clean the car, I do a good job and you always appreciate the work I've done. But here's the thing, you always promise to get me a present and you always seem to forget. So you know what? I don't think I want to do it. Ask someone else. Now what's going on with my older daughter isn't about expectancy. She expects that if she puts in the work, she will get the result. The problem is what Vroom would describe as instrumentality. My older daughter doesn't believe that getting the result that's required will be instrumental in her receiving the reward. If instrumentality is low, then so is motivation. It's like a chain. Expectancy has to be strong, and so does instrumentality. If either link in the chain is weak, then so will motivation be. So let's go to my younger son. I ask him if he wants to clean the car. And he says, well, Dad, every time I do the work, I get a great result and you're always happy with it. And whenever I do a good job, you always buy me the present you promised. The thing is, Dad, there's nothing I particularly want at the moment. What I really want to do is spend some time with my friends. So the first 2 links in the chain for my younger son are complete. He does the work, he gets the result. High level of expectancy. He also believes that if he gets the result, it will be instrumental in him achieving the reward that is promised. So that's high instrumentality. But the problem for him is what Victor Vroom would call the valence. The satisfaction that he will feel at receiving the reward. For him, either the value of the reward is too low, or even if I'm offering an extravagant reward for doing the work, it will not satisfy him enough. If the valence is low, the perceived satisfaction with the reward that is promised is too low, then so is motivation. 3 links in the chain all have to be complete. And that's Vroom's model of motivation. It doesn't tell us anything about what motivates us. It tells us about how that chain of motivation works. The chain runs from effort to performance, to outcome, to the satisfaction or the value we feel in the reward we get. And if any link in that chain is weak, then so is motivation. And we can represent that, as Victor Vroom did, as a simple equation. The motivation that we feel is the expectancy times the instrumentality times the valence. And simple maths tells us that if any of those terms is too low, then motivation will be low. And if any of those terms is zero, then there will be no motivation. So how does this help us as managers? It helps us as managers because, firstly, we have to set work that our team members and colleagues believe is possible. They have to believe that with the resources they have, the skills, the knowledge, the time you've allocated, they can do the work and achieve the result that is expected of them. If they don't believe that, they have low expectancy. Secondly, they have to believe that if you make some promise of rewards, or if your organisation makes a promise of a reward, that they will actually receive that reward. And how many times have we encountered organisations that promise pay rises or bonuses and don't fulfil on those promises? And of course that poisons motivation down the line because of instrumentality. And thirdly, as a manager, if you are going to motivate me to do something, you have to make me an offer of a reward that will give me a sense of satisfaction, will have a high valence. If I don't anticipate being pleased by the reward, then I won't be motivated. That's the chain of motivation. That is Victor Vroom's expectancy model of motivation. Victor Vroom's expectancy theory of motivation is perhaps my favourite model of motivation. And my video on it is one of the most watched videos on this channel. If you haven't seen it, check it out, because without that video, this one will make very little sense. Because Edward Lawler expanded on Vroom's model in a small but important way. A quick recap on Vroom's model, and this is not intended to replace watching the video. I'm not going to explain it in any great depth, so if you're not familiar with the model, there's a good chance you won't follow it from this recap. However, if you have watched the video, particularly if you watched it recently, then this will just refresh your memory. What Vroom said is that motivation is a combination of three things. Firstly, expectancy. The degree to which we expect that if we put in the effort, we will get the results that are expected of us. Second, instrumentality. The degree to which we believe that getting the results that are asked of us will be instrumental in us being rewarded in the way that we are promised. And thirdly, valence. The extent to which the rewards we've been promised have a real value to us. So, Vroom expressed motivation as a simple equation, the product of expectation, instrumentality, and valence. If we genuinely believe that if we put in the effort, we'll get the results, and if we get the results, we'll get the reward, and if we get the reward, we'll value it, then we'll be highly motivated. But if any link in that chain is broken or weak, then motivation will be low. And that makes a lot of good sense. For me, Vroom's model is one of the very best. However, Lawler took a look at the expectation part of that model and expanded it out. He realised that what Vroom expressed as one single concept was really two types of expectation. The first expectancy is the expectancy that the effort we put in will lead to the performance that we want. This is all about self-confidence and self-belief. If we believe we have the skills, and if we believe that doing the work and applying those skills will get us the level of performance that we want, then this first expectancy will be high. However, this first expectancy isn't just about our confidence in our abilities, it's also about our assessment of the task. If we assess the task is too difficult for our level of ability, then our first expectancy will be low. If, on the other hand, we assess the task as easy or certainly one that falls within our capabilities, then our expectancy will be high. The second expectancy is all about the relationship between the performance that we deliver and the outcomes that we get. If we believe that a strong level of performance will deliver the outcomes, then this second expectancy will be high. But you can see that in the real world that we can sometimes do all the right things and do them properly and still not get the results because other factors can intervene, other people can interfere, events can conspire against us. There is an element of luck in the outcomes that we achieve. So, this second expectancy is to a large degree about the extent to which we believe we can control our outcomes. Or, on the other hand, the degree to which we believe that our outcomes are largely a matter of chance or otherwise outside of our control. What Lawler's work gives us is a modified version of Vroom's expectancy equation. Now we have motivation as the product of the first expectancy times the second expectancy times the instrumentality times the valence. I think Lawler's enhancement of Vroom's expectancy theory is a good one. And I think it's a good one because I recognise that the two different levels of expectancy are real. In the way that I do my work, I do separate out the two ideas. Firstly, do I have the ability to achieve the performance level I want? And secondly, if I achieve the performance level I want, will I get the outcomes I'm hoping for? As a result, what I think that Lawler has done is to do us a really great favour in strengthening an already powerful and already useful model. Victor Vroom's expectancy theory is a highly successful model that really does help us to understand motivation. But Lyman Porter and Edward Lawler discovered that for them it doesn't fully explain all the relationships among the effort we put in, the performance we achieve, and the satisfaction that we feel. So, in response, they developed their own model. Porter and Lawler's expectancy model is a lot more complex than Victor Vroom's. A lot more. However, if you put in the work to understand how it operates in its basic form, it will repay you with some valuable insights. So we're going to look at Porter and Lawler's expectancy model in this video. The first thing to note is that in their research, Porter and Lawler failed to find a direct cause and effect relationship between the motivational effort that we put in and the job satisfaction that we feel. Rather, they found a far more complex set of interrelationships among that effort, abilities and traits, the way that we perceive our role, and the performance that we get. They all contribute to one another in some massive feedback loop. Their second major insight was that job satisfaction is more dependent upon performance. That is to say, that in many motivational models, we find that performance is linked to job satisfaction. What Porter and Lawler found was that job satisfaction is linked to performance. But once again, there is a complex feedback relationship that means that they both reinforce one another. All this and more led them to craft the complex set of interactions and feedbacks that are illustrated in this diagram. In this diagram, what Porter and Lawler show as the perceived effort-reward probability is similar to Vroom's idea of instrumentality. What instrumentality means is that if we are able to achieve the performance goals that are set for us, that performance level will be instrumental in achieving the rewards that are promised. Vroom's idea of expectancy was the extent to which we expect that if we put in the work, we will get the results or the performance that we hope for. And in Porter and Lawler's model, this expectancy arises from our perceptions of our abilities and from our traits, and how these relate to the way that we interpret our immediate role. As you might expect, Vroom's valence is here too, and it's the perceived value of the rewards that we're going to get, both the intrinsic and extrinsic rewards. Intrinsic rewards being those rewards that we feel in ourselves: satisfaction, pleasure, pride, knowledge that we're developing, the ability to take more control over our work. They're all intrinsic rewards. Extrinsic rewards come from outside of us. They are the thanks, the recognition, the praise, and the monetary rewards that we get for doing a good job. We can see that our satisfaction arises from both the rewards we receive from our performance and from our perception of how fair those rewards are. And of course, this satisfaction then feeds into the effort that we are motivated to apply. This model feels right. And Porter and Lawler also gathered a lot of evidence to support it. But it is complex, arguably much too complex for managers to use day to day. I could also argue that the extreme complexity of all of the feedbacks and interactions makes it almost impossible to test completely and to satisfy ourselves rigorously that it absolutely stands up to empirical testing. It's also true that Porter and Lawler took no account of what we might call negative motivations, like coercion or feelings of job insecurity. But their model is useful because it tells us a number of valuable and important things. First, it shows us that managers are wise if they invest in training and guiding and developing workers to build up their confidence in their own abilities and capacity. Secondly, if rewards are to be effective, they must link directly and transparently to the performance of the individual. Thirdly, performance evaluations also need to be equally direct, equally transparent, and scrupulously fair. Fourth, as if we didn't know it, motivation can be achieved through a balance of intrinsic and extrinsic rewards. However, number 5, rewards will only be motivating to the extent that they are perceived as being fair in the context of the performance that the worker has achieved. And finally, you must set fair and precise role expectations and performance goals. There's a lot in Porter and Lawler's version of expectancy theory. It's a lot more complex than the Vroom model and therefore arguably nowhere near as useful. But for the student of motivation in the workplace, it provides additional insights and a genuine sense of the complexity of trying to motivate a range of different people in a number of different contexts. As a result, if you're serious about understanding motivation, do examine Porter and Lawler's model carefully. Please do give us a thumbs up if you like this video. There's loads more great management courses content to come, so please do subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any of it. I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video, and in the meantime, keep learning.